All right, so I'm going to make a tier list for jobs in the games industry. So let's just jump straight in. All right, first up, we've got the illustrator, and I'm going to put this in the 80-20 rule. And what I mean by this is that 80% of people who do this work probably are never going to get a job in the games industry. And it's really, really unfortunate because there's a lot of talented illustrators out there. But I really think the one reason for this is AI. A lot of recruiters are seeing stuff like what Midjourney can do, and they're thinking to themselves, why would we ever hire an illustrator when we can just get Midjourney to do it for us and it'll be a lot cheaper? But we need good illustrators in our games. You know, if it doesn't matter for what type of game it is, whether it's a 2D game or 3D game, you're probably going to need an illustrator. All right, and next up, we've got a 3D generalist. So I'm going to put this in mid. That extra dimension, that extra axis, like the Z axis, actually makes a huge difference. It's a lot harder for AI to make a 3D model versus a still 2D picture. But the reason why I put this in mid is because there's just a lot of people who want to do this, and you got a lot of competition, especially in your home country and overseas. So you're really competing against a lot of people, and it's very general. So it doesn't take too long to be able to become competent at being a generalist. All right, next up we've got an animator, and I'm actually going to put this in pretty good. The reason why I'm putting it in pretty good is because of its specialization. It's not that it's super difficult to be an animator, but it's something that not a lot of people want to do, at least initially. If you become good at this, I feel you're going to have some really good opportunities. So that's why I'm putting it in pretty good. All right, next up we got the coffee guy. So yeah, trash but has some potential. So I guess the whole point of this is you buy coffees for everyone, and your goal is to maybe talk to the boss and try to see if you can get a position in the company. Maybe you're a 3D generalist or an animator or whatever you are. So yeah, it's a trash position, and it's probably like what a lot of interns have to do. But there's certainly some potential in it. All right, next up we got the character artist, and I'm gonna also put this in the 80-20 rule. It's one of those things that everyone wants to do this. So back when I was in uni, I was in my general 3D modeling class, and everyone had to go to the front of the class and say what their dreams were like. And so I remember that maybe 80% of the people said they wanted to become a character artist. And it takes so long to become a good character artist. We're talking thousands of hours. You have to learn sculpting, retopologizing, UV mapping, and texturing, which are all beasts in itself. They all take hundreds and hundreds of hours to master. But if you're able to master these, you're going to do pretty well. That top 20%, or maybe even the top 10%, are really going to earn a lot of money and get pretty far in the industry.
I can't even fathom. Take a shot. This is a visual nightmare. This is a disaster. This is a war zone.
All right, next up, we got the community manager. This is also going to go in the 80-20 rule. The biggest downfall of this is that there's a lot of cheap overseas labor. You're competing against a lot of those people. I've seen on Fiverr, there's a lot of people, and you don't even have to like know anything about game dev. There's a lot of people who are offering services like $5 to $10 a day, maybe even less, to run your community. And like you really need it's weird because you need someone who understands your product. It's kind of a job that's like looked over. It's something that like companies only really consider once they've released a product completely. So that's kind of why I've put it in the 80-20. All right, next up we got CEO, CTO, and board members. If you're able to land this position, that's pretty good. Like, that's insane. You're going to get paid a shit ton of money. And plus, you don't even have to be that skilled. Let's be real. A lot of AAA companies, they've got CTOs and CEOs that have no idea what they're doing. Absolutely no idea what they're doing. And that's why their games are failing. So, you know, if they're able to get it, what stops you? I guess the only thing is like experience. Then, you know, if they want to hire a CTO or CEO, they're going to look at your resume and be like, do you have at least 15 to 20 years? They don't care if it's bad experience, but do you have at least 15 to 20 years? That's the one metric they care about. So I guess it's unattainable for people joining the industry and even people who are mid-level. But if you're able to land this, you have made it. All right, next up we got concept artist. And this is also going to go in the 80-20 rule. It's basically the same thing as the illustrator, right? Concept artists were really respected before AI, but now because of AI, they've just been lowered so far. And I guess one of the strengths of AI art is that it's already naturally a little bit rough. And concept art, the whole point of it is to be like rough and to provide a general idea of pretty much what kind of design you want to go for. So AI is actually real, like a concept artist, AI is really the biggest danger I think you have to look out for if you want to do this type of work. All right, next up we've got an engine programmer, and I'm going to put this in mid. And the reason I'm going to put this in mid is because it's very niche. It's a very niche position because a lot of companies are already using Unity and Unreal, and they probably don't have a need for an engine programmer. And if they want something third party or an external, they can just go on the asset store of their choice. If you're able to land an engine programming job for, it doesn't matter even if it's indie, you're going to get paid a lot of money. So I guess that's the one positive about being an engine programmer. All right, next up we got an environmental artist. This is also going to go in the 80-20 rule. The only reason is because a lot of companies who want environment work done kind of expect their 3D generalists to do it. Yeah, there's definitely a need for people who specialize in just environment art, but you're definitely going to have to be a part of that top 20% to even land something. It is what it is. Companies are trying to save as much money as possible. So if that means they can get the 3D generalist to do it, especially if they're not paying the 3D generalist extra money, then they're just going to get them to do it, which is sad. You know, it's really important. A good environment makes a really good game, in my opinion. All right, next up we got an event organizer. And that's going straight into the munted category, man. I mean, I've maybe seen 1 or 2 jobs on LinkedIn for an event organizer, especially because they kind of expect everyone else who's working already to kind of do the event organizing. Like if they're going towards PAX or something and they need to set up a stall, they're just going to get the programmers to probably do all the setup, and then they're going to get the artists to maybe, decorate the table and whatnot. Look, there is, like I said, there is a few jobs going for this, but come on, this has to go in the munted category. All right, next up we're going to have the game designer. And I'm actually going to put this in the mid category as well. Yeah, you're basically the person who's in charge of making the gameplay loop. You're obviously going to do a lot better if you have some basic understanding of code, because if you're able to do some coding, then that's going to obviously make you a lot more attractive for a games designer role. Like companies are going to obviously respect that because you might actually be able to make some of the systems yourself. But yeah, it's very, very general. And if you don't have if you don't have any coding skills, then it's going to be really difficult for you. So if that was the case, you might even be dropped here. But I'm assuming you have some sort of basic coding skill because I think a lot of game designers should. All right, next we have a game programmer. Straight up pretty good. It's one of those things where recruiters know it's a piece of crap to get their head around something. You're going to do... I'm not saying like you're guaranteed to get a job if you become a game programmer, but you're going to find it exponentially easier than art jobs, for sure. I already know that because I've had straight up experience, like when you compare me and my brother's experience. So I'm more of an artist, he's more of a programmer. He certainly finds it a lot easier to get work and to generate a little bit of respect between people who are recruiters who aren't exactly game devs. And you're going to get paid, like the pay for game programmers is actually pretty decent from what I've seen on LinkedIn at least. You're basically the person who's actually building the game, So you're very, very essential. All right, next up we got move to a different industry. Goated. Absolutely goated right there. You can pretty much pick any other industry and you're going to have an easier time landing work. Like you take construction or you take hospitality, so much easier. And the pay, let's be real, construction gets paid quite a bit actually, but a general hospitality job as a server, you're probably going to get paid equal to what, a more specialist role like a environment artist would get paid. It's pretty decent. So yeah, moving to a different industry is just absolutely goated. That's how bad the games industry is right now. All right, next up we got lead anything. I'm putting this in pretty good. If you're able to land a lead job that's actually at a decent company, that's a respected company, then you've made it. You're going to get paid a lot of money, no matter if you're an artist or a programmer. They get paid probably the same and a lot of money. So if you're able to if you landed this or you will land this, then congratulations. Next we got level designer, and this is the same as the environment artist. You're kind of pushed to the side a little bit. The companies expect the 3D generalist to kind of do this for them. Although, yeah, very important to have a real cohesive level. A bad level can really ruin a game because, it just becomes boring and then people stop playing. It's really, really important that we have good level designers. All right, next up we got marketing. And I'm actually going to put this in trash, but has some potential. These people actually have the most confidence. So they're able to talk to people really easy. And that's how they're able to weasel themselves in a lot of the time. Marketing is one of those positions that just gets considered at the end. You know, it should be something that's considered at the start. How am I going to market this project or this game? Because that's going to lead to the best, like the greatest chance to success. But a lot of game companies like to push this to the side and only consider marketing once the game is finished. And that's when it can lead to, you know, if your marketing sucks, your game's not going to get anywhere. All right, next up we got music composer, and I'm also going to put this in trash, but has some potential. And it's really, really sad. I'm actually going to put sound designer there as well, because I'm going to combine the 2 points. Yeah, it's really, really sad. Like, you know, I was taught in uni that music and sound makes up a third of the game experience. But we don't see that reflected in LinkedIn at all. There's barely any music or sound designer jobs. And we need good sound in the games. It's very, very important. Yet there's no one's hiring for them. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of just there's so many royalty-free sounds out there now that it's just really easy just to download. But there's a lot of power in mashing sounds together, which is something that a sound designer does. Like, you can completely change the vibe of a special effects or music by just adding multiple layers. Like, it completely changes it and can enhance it quite a bit. All right, next up we got recruiter. Munted, absolutely munted. I know we see a lot of recruiters on LinkedIn, but I'm telling you, you can't just expect to land a job in the games industry by just training to be a recruiter. It's not how it works. It's not how it works. A lot of the people who are recruiting are all veteran seniors, but recruiters these days don't really know how games are being made, especially now. Things have changed, and it's a lot of them are delusional. And yeah, like I said, you can't expect to get a job as a recruiter. Yeah, especially if you're just starting out in the industry. You should look at one of these skills. All right, next up we got a producer. I was debating whether to put this between trash or 80-20, but I think I'm going to put this in the 80-20 rule, only because if you're a producer, you can be a producer for other industries too. You don't have to be a producer just for games. Like, and it's interesting as well, because a producer in film means something different compared to a producer in games. So a producer in the film industry is kind of the person who funds the project and makes sure the project's running to schedule. But in games, that's not the case. It's usually not the person who funds the project. They're kind of the person who makes sure they have a direct communication between all the different roles and make sure they've got all the tools that they need and they're up to date. So yeah, the 80-20 rule, it's like I said, it's there because if you decide to want to be a producer, you don't have to limit yourself to just games. All right, next up we got the QA, and this is super important, but our industry just does not give a crap about them. So I'm putting in the 80-20 rule. Because companies are trying to save money, so they kind of expect, so if a programmer writes a gameplay mechanic, they're expecting the programmer to test it themselves to see if it actually works. But we really need good QA. Like, these are the people who are paid to think outside the box and break your game in ways that, you know, a programmer or an artist would never think to do so, because they've already spent time making the product. They're not thinking outside the box. They're thinking of exactly what they need to do. But yeah, we need good QA. It's really essential because games are going to become broken. And we've seen a lot of recent AAA games that just, you can tell they haven't had enough testing and there's bugs everywhere. And it's a really important role, but our industry just doesn't think it is. And it's unfortunate. All right, next up we got a rigging artist, and that's going in pretty good, straight up. Like, it's very tedious work. It's very sought after. There's a lot of opportunities. And it's one of those things that people don't really want to do. People don't like weight painting. They think it's super annoying. But if you want to become a rigging artist, you're going to have a decent time in the industry. I'm not saying you're guaranteed a job, because you're certainly not. But you're going to have a better than average shot compared to someone that's just like a 3D generalist, for example. Yeah, especially if you are a generalist too. If you're a generalist and you can do rigging and you're really good at that, you're going to have no problems whatsoever, in my opinion. All right, next up we got the technical artist. And yeah, that's the same as it's similar to a rigging artist. Not the workload, but in terms of how well you're respected and needed. So a technical artist is basically the person who bridges the gap between programming and art. You're going to be doing a lot of implementing, and you're also going to be doing things like shader code. So you know a lot about coding and you know a lot about art. So a lot of times companies are going to hire you versus hiring a game programmer and a generalist as two separate people. If you're able to do everything, then you're going to do super well and get paid good money, heaps and heaps, like at least 6 figures at the minimum. All right, next up we got UI UX, and I'm going to put this in mid. I was having a conversation with my brother before, and he thought that I should separate these. But when you see jobs on LinkedIn, you rarely see them separated. They're usually put together. So you got a UI person who that person's in charge of making the UI for the game. And yeah, that's super important. Like bad UI can really ruin a game. And then user experience is kind of the person who, looks at the overall experience and develops ways to improve it. That it might be with the UI, but it also might be with the gameplay itself. How can we make the gameplay better? All right, next up we got VFX artist. And I was debating whether to put this between pretty good and mid, but I think I'm going to put it in mid. The reason why I'm putting it in mid is for a lot of indie companies, it's similar to like marketing. They kind of push it to the very end. They only really think about how can we enhance the game after the game is already almost finished. So that makes it hard to land work because there's just not much time. But if you're working for a AAA company, a VFX artist is incredibly respected. So you might even get upgraded to here. But I have to take into account indie plus AAA. So I'm going to leave it in mid, and I think that's pretty fair. All right, next up we got a video editor. And I'm going to put this in the 80-20 rule as well. I actually just recently hired a video editor to do my work, and I put a post on LinkedIn. And within 1 hour after putting the post on LinkedIn, mind you, I didn't pay LinkedIn, I haven't got the premium. They had to close it down after 1 hour because I had too many applicants. And then because of that, I edited the post to include my email. And just look at my email. I've got 22 additional applicants. I can't be bothered going through all these people. And a lot of them are from overseas because I'm from Australia, but a lot of these are from overseas. And I need someone, I've got him now, but I need someone who really understands my content because that's my only chance of success, really. If my video editing isn't good, then no one's going to watch the video. People are going to get bored.
Fucking yeah, nah, mate.
But look how many applicants. It's just absolutely crazy. So that's your competition. So that's why it's going in the 80-20 rule, because you really got to be in that top 20% to get work in the industry. All right, next up we got writer, and that's going in the munted territory. It's really, really sad, this one. This one is really, really unfortunate. If you go back 10, 15 years, you could maybe even think it could go here, but I'm putting it in the munted territory because these days, CEOs and CTOs are the ones that have the vision, and they got such a huge ego that they don't want to hear anyone else telling them what they should make their story about. They want to create what they want to create. And so writing jobs have just gone downhill big time. There's barely any of it now. I've maybe seen one or two jobs. I've probably seen more event organizer jobs than writer jobs, which is just so bad, man. But it is what it is. All right, next up we got AI artist. And this might be a bit controversial, but I'm putting this in trash but has some potential. I've seen this popping up more recently, actually. It's interesting because AI is developing a lot faster and it's getting a lot better. And yeah, I can definitely see how it saves a lot of money. If you're making like a visual novel, yeah, I can certainly see how this is useful. And who knows, in 5 to 10 years' time, this might become just as popular as, a 3D generalist, and it might get upgraded to mid. But for now, I'm going to put in trash because, yeah, it clearly is still trash. It's not up to scratch. But, I'm seeing some potential in this. And last of all, we got any internship. And I'm also going to put this in trash, but has some potential. Look, it's going to depend on who you're working for. If you're working for a AAA company, then, this internship is going to be a lot more valuable. But if you're doing intern work for a no-name company who's never released any games, no one's heard about, then you're essentially just working for free. You're getting nothing out of it. It's just exploitation at this point. And I would never recommend working for free unless it provides some value to you. If you don't know if it's going to provide value, just work for free 1 to 2 weeks or 2 weeks to a month max and give yourself boundaries. So if nothing's progressing and you're not going to get paid work from that point, then just quit. It's not worth it. You're better than that. And that's the end of this tier list. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'm actually going to provide a link in the description for you to download this. But I would love if you drop a comment below, just if you have a differing opinion, because a lot of this stuff is subjective. It's basically just the opinion of me and my brother. I'd also appreciate if you drop a like and sub, and also I have a Discord server where we have conversations in. Sometimes we talk about, sharing art, or other times we talk about the industry and just, we try to help each other out. So yeah, I'd greatly appreciate that. See you later, everyone.